I'm Johan Vega, and we are at the sound room at Holyoke Media, 1 Court Plaza in Holyoke, Massachusetts. I want to welcome Jason Moses. We have this conversation so overdue. You have no idea, because it's a project, an idea that we had a long time ago based on a presentation that Jason had with his band Shokazoba. And this happened in 2017 or 18, if my memory doesn't fail me, when you were actually performing here in Holyoke for Celebrate Holyoke at that year.
Yeah, outside on a big stage. And you gave such a beautiful, heartfelt introduction. Now, there are many people who have given introductions to Shokazoba over the years, but yours was so, I was like, okay, Johan is paying attention and he cares so much about what's going on. I had to meet you and say, hey, can I quote you on our website? That was such a beautiful introduction, And so that's how we got to know each other. And then you presented the opportunity to potentially work together on Radio Plasma.
That's the way it all started. Yeah. And here we are. Lot of catch up to do. And well, first of all, Jason, thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time to share with us. We would like to know, well, first of all, how are you doing, and how is everything going around your music production in general, as a musician yourself on your own, but also with Shokazoba as this amazing and fantastic collective of artists creating this beautiful fusion with the base of Afro Beat in it.
It's been a wild ride, I take a step back and look at the whole picture sometimes, which is important to do so you don't get too stuck where you are. And I still don't know whether we're at the beginning or the middle or the end of this journey, Hopefully there's a long way to go still. It's felt to me and seems to me like it's been some type of, I don't know what you believe in regarding, our relationship with the universe or spirit or whatever you want to call it, but it's some kind of spirit-led, journey we've been on. It's like how things unfold and how things come together and fall apart and come together and fall apart. And here we are 21 years later, It just blows my mind sometimes. And the lineup we have is just absolutely phenomenal. And not just talent-wise, but just the kindness, the genuine kindness of the people that we get to work with at this point is just such beautiful, heartfelt people. It's not easy to find, in the music world. There's human drama is an inevitability, but now we just have like this wonderful group to work with. The most talented people I've ever had in the band we've ever had, and this album that we were working on that's many years overdue. COVID threw a big wrench into everything, right? And since then, it's been a bit of a struggle to keep the band together. Enough personnel, enough momentum, all the things. It's almost like a beautiful sandcastle we're making, and before we can show anybody, the ocean takes it away, But finally, here we are. We had a very nice year. Had some very nice shows, some new places we played we haven't played before. A lot of outdoor concerts, which was very sweet. It's kind of my new favorite thing to do. Now that I'm in my 40s, I like driving home at the end of the gig when it's still light outside, But it's been an incredible journey as far as the honor of taking part in Fela's legacy, in whatever capacity, to carry forward his intentions, his philosophies, his creative engine and vehicle, of his creation, and to transmute that into something that is contemporarily relevant, culturally relevant, and feels so meaningful and satisfying to me as a person, and so many people that we've come in contact, with. So over the years, so to go from point A to this point B is quite a privilege to be sitting here with you now.
How the manifestation of music in its many unique ways found you as the representation of the music that you with Shokazoba are playing, taking the influences of Afro Beat and its structure as sound and incorporating elements that are aligned to this energy, creating something that at the same time making homage to the Afrobeat roots and what it represents culturally,
Yeah.
adding what you feel along every member of Shokazoba and new synergy that is what represents the work that you are doing. But how this path of music, influences, culture came together to make Shokazoba what it is?
Oh, it's just wild, you know. I have so many stories about all of that and how things became aligned, and you know, I wouldn't blame anybody for not believing me because they seem so outlandish, you know. Like I was already a fan of Fela personally. A good friend of mine from high school, Francisco Monar. I hope he's doing well wherever he is. He is the type of guy where he's always looking at new music, always. And every week he's got the new best thing ever he's never heard before. You have to check this out. And by the end of the week, he's done with it. He's like, I'm over. It's too popular. I need something else. And so one week I was the beneficiary. This is maybe like 20 something years ago, of an album of an artist I'd never heard before, Fela Kuti. And he had just started reissuing all sorts of, albums of his that had been, digitally remastered and put onto CD, 2 albums per CD. And so Francisco gave me an album that had 2 of Fela's records on it. One is Chakra, the London scene. No, one of them is Chakra and the other one is the London scene. And the first song on that album is called Lady. And it's Fela's anthem of appreciation for African women. Beautiful, beautiful intentions and incredible music. And it just split my mind in half, and inside out as to what was, it redefined my concept of what was possible with music, what you could dream into, what you could, because Fela, what I learned about him subsequently is he invented a proprietary style of music, never existed before, and it requires very, strict, guidelines, creative guidelines as far as this is how you put this together and how you do this thing, right? Not to mention his philosophies of, no person is more or less special than anyone else, always respect everybody's feelings and always tell the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable. And so, so much of what he did, his activist spirit, and so many of my musical heroes resonated with that as well, things that I had been, exploring previous to, but it gave this inspirational energy, like get up and do something about it, like nothing I've ever felt before, So anyways, flash forward several years later, I'm living out here. I grew up north of Boston, and I eventually moved out here with my brother and sister to the Valley in 2004. And a friend of mine from high school, actually kindergarten through high school, he went to school in New York City, wound up in the record industry. And he knew that I was a fan of Afro Beat music and Fela Kuti. And he called me up. This is the fall of 2004. And to tell me that he knew of this party happening in Brooklyn, with this band I'd never heard of before called Antibalas, right? And Antibalas is now like American Afrobeat royalty. They're amazing. They've traveled all over the world. Yeah. They got signed by Daptone Records. They're as successful as you could possibly be within that context. But they were still sort of on the gentle rise at that point. They were just being signed by the record label, but they were still rootsy in a neighborhood Brooklyn band, and they were playing at this New Year's party. And do I want to come to New York and go to this party and spend the weekend with him and his wife? And I was like, yeah, of course. So incredible experience, right? And coming back to the Valley, coming back off the highway into Northampton from coming from New York City, I picked up the phone to call my brother to see if there's anything I could get for the house on the way home. Anybody need anything? And he said, well, actually, I just broke my last pair of drumsticks. Would you mind stopping by the music store and getting me some more? I said, no problem. Not, I'm actually pulling right to the music store right now. And so I pulled over the car, crossed the street to Downtown Sounds in Northampton, where they have big bulletin board in their vestibule. I opened the door, walk right in my face, like eye level. I could not see anything else. Bright yellow flyer of somebody wanting to start a Fela Kuti tribute project. And I said, if that isn't meant to be, then I don't know what is. So then a couple weeks later, we found ourselves in this studio space in the Paragon building, which is an old factory building in East Hampton, repurposed for artist uses mostly. And that's when it all started, like early February of 2005, so go figure, And so Shokazoba in its inception was a Fela Kuti tribute project. 17 pieces. And we tried to decide everything by consensus, which is as much of a mess as you could possibly imagine. But we did our best to be egalitarian and considerate, and oftentimes failing at that venture. But the reason the name of the band is Shokazoba is because that is the one name that the entire group could agree on of so many that we tried, and it's a Nigerian word that means shock absorber. So it's a cognate, sounds exactly what it means, and we were basically exclusively Fela material is what we played for a number of years. And what a gratifying creative experience that was, transcribing and teaching each other, getting back to that oral tradition, which is, where all that Yoruba music traditionally comes from. That's how it's passed down. Anyways, until eventually several years in, we had enough creative original material that we felt proud to represent us, and that we would want to share with Fela if he was alive, and so that began our original sort of identity. And we don't call ourselves an Afro Beat band anymore. We came up with a newer moniker that represents our genre, which is obviously mostly heavily influenced by Fela's Afro Beat, but we call ourselves New World Funk at this point. Our first album was called Congress for Sale, which was produced in 2010. And the second album was called One Destiny. And I was looking for the place where the album could potentially thrive on the radio. Not easy. You look at Fela's music, you don't hear it on the radio. Yeah. There's reasons, right? His songs are typically 15 to 25 minutes long. Number one, that's a problem. And the lyrical content is like incendiarily revolutionary, right? Like set the thing on fire is what Fela would say, with love. Let's rebuild, let's do something better. But Fela, it does not mince words about anything, so not radio friendly. Our material is 7 to 9 minutes long on average per song, so we trimmed it down significantly, but same kind of issues or dynamics to work with. And so where would I ever hear Fela material over the years was community and college radio. So I found on Wikipedia the longest list you could possibly imagine of community and college radio stations all over the world, and I sent I don't know how many hundreds of emails and phone calls, and of the people that would get back to me with genuine interest, I would send out snail mail a physical copy of our album. And one of the radio stations was in Burlington, Vermont, and apparently they played the record, and somebody from CMJ heard it who was in Burlington and then wrote a review. And a great review that we have quoted on our website. But one of the things they used, one of the monikers, one of the descriptors they used in the review to describe our music was New World music. And I was like, oh, and it's just like a light bulb went on. I was like, what a brilliant, way to frame that, and it, to me, it just like hit me as a multi-meaning, like a multi-layered sort of concept, like new as in obviously is original, and world, that sort of, I don't know, silly genre, sort of like, dismissive, like, whitewashy sort of genre for everything outside of American and European music we call world music in the United States, which is, sort of crazy. But at the same time, it's what it is. That's what we use. So new for original, world for world music, but also new world, as in like, we're trying to inspire a new world. We're trying to greet a new world. We're trying to usher in and hopefully be there for the new world. And if our music could be part of that in any way, that's exactly what Fela was trying to do with his music. The platform for social justice and positive change and for critical truth-telling. And then funk, that's an obvious one, So that's the story basically of Shokazoba and what it turned into. And then so many musicians coming in and out of the project over the years, because you have a large band that lasts 20 years, which is a labor of love. And yeah, we make some money at it, but nobody's paying their rent from the money they make from this band. So to find people that stick with the band for 2 to 5 years is a miracle, let alone 20. So a lot of musicians in and out of the band, but everyone has their unique contributions, their own personal unique creative backgrounds. And so it's so important to let people authentically be themselves. Whatever you have to bring, if it contributes positively, let's get it in there. Let's find a way to fold it into what we're doing, into the recipe. So then we wind up with all these different, creative influences as well, in addition to Afro Beat. So while it's mostly Fela's music is the main influence, there's a lot of other things as well.
And to think the way the concept of a tribute band operates and matches the process of the evolution of Shokazoba makes me think of, yes, a tribute band, which oftentimes is associated with a covers band, which is not the same, because in this case, when you talk about a tribute band, you are taking piece by piece, note by note, elements of every piece created by Fela to understand its meaning, its structure, its resonance, and reinterpret it in a way that celebrates its creation, understanding what it feels, not only to play it for an audience, what it feels playing it as a musician, which is an experience that goes beyond what any audience can experience when they listen to music. It's something that when someone is not a musician, they don't get to fully comprehend, I feel. But when a musician is playing, you really get immersed into a different level of experience. And with that, thinking the legacy that Fela created through his music and now generating new ideas with what you are creating with Shokazoba feels like the natural way and possibly the purpose of creating such incendiary music that now is leading to make this new world
Yeah.
music as a way, as a response of those creations that he did, making sure that music doesn't only stays static on what it was created some years ago, but it continues growing and evolving from what it is. And here we are talking about new music that Shokazoba is about to present to the public in an event that we have been planning in our minds at least for so long. And finally, we're going to have the opportunity of making it possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I something I really appreciate about the style of music that Fela created was there are very strict creative guidelines. For me, it feels really comforting to have some parameters, some kind of like limitations even to push against. Because when creativity is wide open, it can be overwhelming. Right? You don't necessarily know which way to go. It's like when I write poetry, I like haikus. There's 5 and 7 and 5 syllables. Okay, that's what I have to work with. I can work within that, And it's nice to have things open ended sometimes too. But there's something really comforting about like tucking into a prescribed sort of creative formula, and that's what Fela's music, was in its essence. And obviously to begin with, finding some way to blend high life, which is a West African style very similar to calypso and jazz and traditional Yoruba rhythms, with James Brown style funk, very unique, but also that polyrhythmic polyphonic groove with 4 parts with 2 guitars, a bass, and drums. Going churning like a locomotion through the entire song, and then everything else sort of sitting on top of that, the horn section and the call and response lines with the horn section and the vocals and the backup singers and all that too. The way that it came together is very unique, right? So if you're not doing it like that, you're basically not playing Afro Beat. You're doing something else, which is okay. But if Fela made it very specific and very well understood, right? But then, come into, this is, the late 60s into the early 70s mostly, come into the early 2000s, and this music has never been transcribed. It's never been written down. These recordings they're decent quality recordings, but they're not digital. They're not very crisp, and so we are like ear to the speaker, for hours and hours and hours, like, just to figure out the tiniest little guitar part sometimes, we were so invested in trying to get all of it right, and which makes perfect sense, for us as far as like the intentions we were trying to bring, for the way we were trying to feel about the experience. We wanted to feel like we were representing it as well as we could, but also selfishly for it's a nice feeling for that level of gratification, for that level of satisfaction, for that level of just like, spiritual identity, to be like, this is who we are, this, and if we were to present this to people of this culture, we would want them to feel like we were representing it as, lovingly and as respectfully and with as much gratitude and admiration as we could. One of our favorite places to play over the years is sort of as far as I know anyway, the only basically legitimate Afro Beat club anywhere in the United States is this small little club in Harlem up on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard called The Shrine. Fela's club back in the day that he built was called The Shrine in Lagos, Nigeria. And there's this Nigerian-owned club in Harlem called The Shrine. And if you have the opportunity to go, it's a sweet spot. And they actually have very diverse programming, but they definitely support Afrobeat, music. And so we would play there, Friday or Saturday nights from 10 to midnight, which is a pretty cool slot to play. There's going to be a party in Harlem on Friday and Saturday night at that time. But I remember the first time walking in there, and there was a lot of like, who are these guys, kind of like hairy eyeball sort of treatment. But as soon as the music started, and people were just like, oh, okay. And everybody was dancing, and we walked out with high fives and hugs, and it became such a beautiful place to go back to so many times over the years, and that's largely been our experience, and I feel whoever you are, from whatever your cultural background is, if there's something that speaks to you and inspires you genuinely, and it's something you want to pour your energy into because it feeds your soul for whatever reason, obviously there's no quantifying or qualifying any of that beyond this really this really gets me and I really get it, and you do so with full commitment and full integrity. There's no way that you're not going to be well received, So anyway.
So how is the process currently in the creation of new music, new material that leads to the upcoming show that Shokazoba is having here at Holyoke Media?
Well, so the way things go with us is any number of ways, right? There are all sorts of influences, all sorts of tidbits, little bits and pieces of composition that sometimes we carry through the years, and then we find a way to incorporate them into something new. Sometimes there's somebody in the band who writes a song. Like, here's a really interesting example. Our drummer, Riley, absolutely brilliant musician in many regards. He writes his own material, he sings, he plays guitar, he obviously plays drums, but limitlessly talented individual. And a few years ago, he came to the band and he said, okay, I wrote a song. We're like, well, what do you mean? He's like, oh no, I have the whole song, every single part. And he wrote it out, I had it all in charts, like music notation. And he had the title, and he had the melody and the cadence for the lyrics, like every single part, but he had no lyrics. Just the title and every single other part. And he said, here, if you can help me with the lyrics, that would be great. So I took home, speaking of having some parameters, some limitations to push against, I knew what the rhythm was and I knew what the melody was for the lyrics to fit into, and I knew what the title was. So then it was just sort of a playing word games, and coming up with all these lyrics. So the name of his tune is Under Fire. And speaking of incendiary, one of the lyrics in that song is, we're going to light a fire under you, so please light a fire under me. And that's exactly what you were saying. Like, Fela lit the fire under us, and now we're trying to do the same thing, is pass that flame forward, of inspiration and action. But 9 songs on this upcoming album. Some of them are newer. Personally, I had a very prolific writing period during the pandemic era. It was obviously a very challenging time for all of us in many regards, but for me, it was also a very good time in certain ways to reevaluate, and not just reevaluate, to recapitulate, even just to get back in touch with myself in a deep way that I hadn't been in a long time. It's a privilege in a lot of ways to be able to stop and reassess and to delve deeply into something you wouldn't necessarily have the space to do otherwise, and that's how it worked out for me, thankfully. And so I wrote a bunch of songs myself, but there are contributions from members of the band that aren't even here anymore that are on this album, like our old trombone player, Jeremy, he moved to New York, upstate New York, but there was a song that he wrote that was unfinished. And then we revisited, Riley and I, we went back and we finished the song and rearranged it and added some new lyrics and a new concept. So any number of ways and all sorts of different influences, trying, pushing the boat out creatively further than we have in a bunch of different directions, which is really cool.
Yeah. And In terms of the sound structure, because you were mentioning a large number of members of Shokazoba in its beginnings, and that, as you have mentioned as well, has changed
Yeah.
throughout the years. So, what is the structure today of Shokazoba, particularly for this new album, and how working with a different number of elements has somehow helped or um, creating a dynamic that makes it work for what it is today?
Well, we have found over the years is the bare minimum number of people you can have in order to represent the type of energy we're creating properly with the right type of personnel is 8 pieces, and that's what we have today. So it's bass, drums, guitar, keyboard, 3 horns, and lead vocals. You need the 3 horns to have 3-part harmony. And the back and forth call and response counterpoint lines and that sort of thing. In Fela's band, he always had 2 guitars and a bass and drums playing this groove. And so instead of the 2 guitars, oftentimes I will pick up that second groove part on the keys. So I'm like multitasking a lot. Live performance wise, we've dropped it as low as 7, which means maybe the singer's not there and I'm singing, which is I can do, but it's like break glass in case of emergency. Like I shouldn't have to do that, hopefully. And then we've done as little as 6, which means one of the horn players isn't there and the singer isn't there, so I'm playing the keys and the trombone and singing. And so you got to do what you got to do to get through the gig. That's how we're here 21 years later. But 8 pieces, and everyone's a feature. Everyone has their spot to shine. Everyone's an incredibly unique player. The horn section we have, which I found is the best for this music, is a trumpet and a trombone and a tenor saxophone. The tenor saxophone, for a saxophone, has the widest range. As far as where the level of depth and as far as where they can play their music is. What I'm trying to say is they have the lowest and the highest range of any one particular saxophone, so it's very dynamic in that way. The trumpet gives it that punch up top to really push that energy, to really to announce it, to give it fanfare type vibes, And then the trombone is an incredibly versatile instrument, and it has a lot of personality, but also because it's a brass and not a reed instrument, gives it even more of an attack, So those 3 together just create the perfect energy for the music that we're writing. And the 3 horns that are in the band right now are just absolutely incredibly talented, and just like pleasure of as far as the people they are to work with too. Everyone in the band is incredibly dynamic, and I sometimes I feel bad for the bass player because he gets the least opportunity to shine of anybody, because that's the role of the bass player typically, is to just hold everything together. But when we play live, we give him an opportunity, and certainly we will give him an opportunity to be well appreciated at the show as well. So very diverse group of personnel, all sorts of different backgrounds, culturally, ethnically, creatively, and I just have several moments every time we get to play together, whether it's in rehearsal or at a show or whatever we're doing. It's almost like a pinch me sort of moment, like I can't even believe I get to be in the room with these types of people, like such beautiful, wonderful people who are so incredibly talented and so dedicated, with full commitment of their heart and their soul and their spirit to what we're doing musically. So,
Talking about this experience that playing together creates and is such a joy and something so unique that happens while you play. And what an amazing opportunity we're gonna have to come together and listen to Shokazoba playing live in the studios of Holyoke Media for a show that is going to be a great way to celebrate your work, celebrate your new music. And if we put it in a way of even marking that we are reaching the end of 2025 somehow, but able to come together and celebrate that we are here, that we can still enjoy the magic and the beauty of music and what it represents, and have a moment to disconnect from everything else and just be present.
To just to connect to the moment, yeah, to celebrate life, to celebrate love, to celebrate humanity, to celebrate consciousness, to celebrate the fact that, in spite of everything that has happened in all directions into the universe, we are here, and we're doing something beautiful. Even just getting together to share these feelings is beautiful. Life is all about feelings, isn't it? And back to one of Fela's tenets of philosophy as far as respect for everyone's feelings, but greater than respect, celebration for each other's feelings, sacred space for each other's feelings, and to try to generate good feelings, ecstatic joy, to create, but also a container for all feelings, right? Because Fela's music, and therefore Shokazoba's music, has always dealt with difficult subject matter. I don't have a title for this album yet. I'm still working on that. I'm happy to take suggestions. And our two previous albums, very similar to Fela's music, we're very pointed with how we go after certain issues, and human behavioral issues, social issues, all sorts of things that we have to deal with, and a lot of things that are difficult to talk about. This new album is more solution oriented, and I think it comes at things from a broader perspective. Comes at things from a let's take down these imaginary lines we call borders, or let's put away our cultural identities. Let's just connect on the basic human levels of, like, here are the building blocks of our emotional struggles that we all deal with, right? And should we deal with them the most constructive, loving way together, so that we can move forward together, so we can walk and move together. But sometimes it takes stopping and calming and quieting and connecting in order to come to that place of unity, of that place of collective understanding. And that's what we really hope this album can do. And that's let this be an example, this event that we're trying to put together, a moment for us all to come into a space together to really just put it all down, put it all away, just stop, be open, be not just open to receiving, open to sharing, open to creating something in a moment of consciousness that serves us all as best as it possibly can, holistically. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Yeah.
And people may be thinking, okay, there's going to be a show, Shokazoba is going to play at Holyoke Media, but when that is going to happen? So the date is December 19th. And just before the holidays, and perfect way to wrap up the production and events happening at Holyoke Media. I don't think there is a better way to do that, with an amazing energy, with live music and opportunities to share that moment, and especially having this show that we have been planning for so long. And I think that timing is perfect for it. So what it would be your invitation for the public to join us on December 19th?
Well, just want everyone to know that if you are 18 years old or younger, it's free admission. We want to, speaking of what you were saying earlier, lighting a fire, it's important to be able to reach people. It's important for music to be accessible to everyone, so that's our invitation. We invite you to come share this meaningful experience with us. Our on the heels of our 21st anniversary of us, working on this music and being a band, being a project, and feeling so proud of who we are and who we work with. And the creative vehicle that we've been so blessed to hop aboard for such a long time, and to know what this music is, it's incredibly, infectiously, irresistibly danceable. It's a dance party even in your seat. Like, I am not a dancer, and this music is one of the only things where I literally cannot keep still the entire time. So even if you come to listen or if you come to dance, it has something for everyone. The way Fela built his music, constructed his genre, it has the ultimate amount of creative stimulation. First, even like a jazz musician of the highest caliber can fit right into that music, and it'll give him what he needs, give her what she needs. At the same time, it's so accessible that if you don't have any musical education and you can just snap your fingers and tap your feet, it will also give you everything that you need to. It's the most ultimately accessible, but also creatively stimulating, spiritually stimulating art form that I've ever come in contact with. So for us to create and share a moment of beauty and stimulation and inspiration together, and to celebrate the fact that we get to come here to this beautiful state-of-the-art studio space in downtown Holyoke is a blessing for all of us. And so, as many people under 18 years old that can come to this free show for you, that would be delightful if we could fill the room with you guys. And we're doing a suggested donation for everyone over 18. Pay what you can, more if you can, less if you can't. And so we invite the entire city of Holyoke and anyone else who is hearing this, or if you're hearing this and you know somebody that you think might appreciate what we're doing, and if you don't know who Fela Kuti is, please look up FELAKUTI and figure out what this music is all about, because if you haven't heard it before, it is likely something that will open your mind in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine. And that's what it did to us, and that's why we're here 21 years later to put this event together and have such a great time.
And to your point of inviting people to discover Fela's music, makes me think of the possible experience new listeners of Fela Kuti's music will have is to say, this sounds like something I've heard already. Because how many artists take from Fela's influence to create their own craft, and that has expanded into so many other genres. And of course, hip-hop is not excluded from it. Many representations of hip-hop throughout the years have Fela's presence. Through instrumentation, through lyrics, through samplings. So I'm pretty sure many new listeners will find that connection with the roots of that influence that is the music that they are listening to today. And the other aspect, and I really appreciate and I'm thankful for you opening this opportunity for younger audiences to be able to attend with no limitations on terms of accessibility, particularly for financial reasons. It is interesting how even now there are limitations with spaces for enjoying of music here in the Valley. There's less of them. And with that, there is even less opportunities for younger audiences or for, public of all ages to come together and enjoy of music or different representation of the arts. Because if they are happening in a venue that tends to be only for 18 or actually 21 plus, any younger audience cannot be there. And you are opening a door that is so important to allow audiences of all ages, even families, to come together and have that time together enjoying, listening to music that comes from genres that connects us through generations already. I will say 3 of them. And how important is that to generate space that allows for this type of gathering that is multi-generational, that is multicultural, and that is open to just be there, be present. I really find this so important and so meaningful, and I wanted to express my appreciation for that particular aspect because it is needed. And I hope many artists and venues look at this and take it as an opportunity to open up for more diversity and accessibility for our communities, because if it is not because of art, the music, and the experiences we can have through it, our lives will be really, really miserable.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying so. I've luckily in my life had several experiences where I've learned a very important lesson, which is if you have something beautiful inside you that makes you feel better about being alive, it's likely that what you have to share will also help other people feel better, right? And if you have something to share, giving it just because of your own joy for it, to share with other people, is one of the most beautiful things you can do, right? Giving of, something that's, beautiful and healing and helpful for you is more than likely going to be that for other people. And especially giving with no expectation of anything in return, just to share those feelings, just to share that experience. This has worked really well for me, or this is something I love, and I want you to, let me at least show you this. You give it a try, right? And that's how we all come together. That's how we all sit down at the table together. That's how we find out how much we have in common, right? And, accessibility, not just from a point of view of performance, but also a point of view of learning, a point of view of, building and sharing, accessibility for rehearsal space for musicians, for youth, right? That's not easy. Even for adults, to find a place to start a band and rehearse, it's not easy. A lot of people are paying for that privilege now, and it's getting more and more expensive, Thankfully, Shokazoba has always been very lucky and resourceful in finding places to rehearse and that sort of thing. But that's not an easy thing. That's one of the things that bands struggle with over the years in keeping together. Well, we have nowhere to rehearse. How are we going to continue on, But to find spaces, that are true community spaces, for community to thrive, and to become more connected, and to become, to be able to show up for each other, is so important, beyond music, beyond anything, to be able to come together in ways that allow us to feel like we're genuinely here together, Yeah.
How can people, aside of exploring, discovering, and enjoying Fela Kuti's music, can get to know about Shokazoba's music, their previous productions, and all about you? So how can people get to find you, listen to your music, and get more information about everything Shokazoba?
Go right to your internet browser, or go to your notes section on your phone before that. Just type in the name of our band, and all of our stuff will come right to you. Shokazoba is spelled Shokazoba, which is a little different than the traditional spelling. We took the C out because we thought it looked better on a poster. I know it's a little silly. My apologies. But look that up. Google the name of the band, Shokazoba. Shokazoba means shock absorber. And all of the information, our website will have it all. But you'll also see our Bandcamp page, where we stream our music, is very important to us. And similar to Fela, we only want to work with people we feel good about working with, people who have integrity, people who treat you kindly and with respect. Most major streaming platforms, they don't pay anybody anything, barely anything at all, for album sales, for streams, any of it. And everyone says, well, I'm on, this, that, and the other company for exposure, and I can understand that angle. For me, that's not enough. I want to feel like I'm working with people who treat me with kindness and respect. So that's why we use exclusively Bandcamp, because Bandcamp is a great company that treats the artists very fairly. And so if you look up Shokazoba on Bandcamp, you will find our 2 previous albums and one of our EPs that we released there. And there's also all sorts of live recordings from over the years. People took videos of all sorts of shows, but for many, many years, we would take live recordings of our shows and put them up on Archive. So you can find, and we've been downloaded over 1 million times on Archive. So you can find Shokazoba on archive.org, which is a great resource for so many things. But yeah, that's what I would encourage you to do, is just type in the name of the band into your web browser. That's Shokazoba, Shokazoba, and let your fingers do the walking and do some exploring.
So this is our conversation with Jason Moses, and the invitation is now in the air for you to join us on December 19th here at Holyoke Media, One Court Plaza in downtown Holyoke, Massachusetts, for what it will be the showcasing of the new music of the upcoming album of Shokazoba, and the celebration closing 2025, the cycle of multiple events that we have had here at Holyoke Media, just with the promise that this will be the first of many more things that we have to do together related to music and bringing community together through music, and just having fun listening, creating music, and sharing it with the world. So, Jason, thank you so much for being here with us, for all the work that you have been doing all these years, making possible that Shokazoba is here, and the connections that this creates with all the all the musicians who have been part and are part of the group, and the people who have been listening and enjoying of your music throughout these years.
And thank you for saying so. And it's our pleasure and our honor to be able to finally come here to do this with you, after connecting all those years ago and having this idea, and to plant that seed and just carefully water it. And, even if it takes a long time to grow, it still grows, and again, like I said in the beginning of our conversation, I've never had any sort of clear vision as to how long are we going to be doing this. Like 21 years in, is this the beginning, the middle, or the end? I don't know. We'll find out. Every year goes by, and it's almost like you've heard of the expression "jump over the broomstick." It's like at the end of every year we say, okay, well, is this something we want to try to do? Keep it going and the answer has always been yes. So I'm happy to be here. Grateful to be here at the end of another year, to be celebrating what we've experienced this year and for the last 20, and to jump over the broomstick again and let this be the momentum forward, for us as a band, and hopefully for everyone who shares this event with us and our music, as a community, to inspire all sorts of beautiful things to happen within us and outside of us, and all around us.